Have you heard of the drug fentanyl? Well, you should, because federal data suggests the illegally manufactured drug could be behind the national increase in opioid-related deaths. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports 426% more drugs were seized and tested positive for fentanyl in 2014 than in 2013. During that same period of time, deaths tied to the use of fentanyl and other synthetic opioids rose by 79%. Authors of the report say the correlation suggests fentanyl, a drug 50 to 100 times stronger than morphine, is behind the rise in overdoses. Heroin laced with fentanyl and other drugs had contributed to scores of overdoses in 4 states in just 1 week. And 2 weeks ago, in a matter of just 4 hours, 26 people overdosed in one West Virginia town. Yet no one died. RT Simone del Rosario traveled to Huntington to find out what happened to cause this overdose outbreak.
When I woke up, I was so ashamed. That's what one mother told me off camera in Huntington, West Virginia. She was one of 26 people in 4 hours to overdose on a potent batch of heroin on August 15th. She was sober and sorry, but others already back in the habit. All 26 patients that overdosed within that 4-hour time period were within a few blocks from where I'm standing. Authorities were able to trace the potent batch back to one drug dealer. Residents here remember him walking around that day, passing out cheaper than normal heroin, promising they'd like it. Last week, authorities arrested and charged 22-year-old Bruce Lamar Griggs of Akron, Ohio, with distributing the heroin.
Obviously, this heroin was laced with something. I do not know for sure. It took more Narcan than normal to revive them.
But in that 4-hour stretch, they didn't lose a single life.
A lot of people, unfortunately, have the opinion they did it to themselves, leave them alone. We gave 26 people a second chance to get help. That's someone's mother, father, daughter. And we gave them a chance to get help. And that's what we're hoping, that one of those 26 will seek help.
James Mollet is a recovering heroin addict in Huntington. His story, like so many others. He took pain pills for a back injury, got hooked, and turned to heroin when the pills became too expensive and too hard to get.
I was probably staying high at that time for about a month straight. I stayed in a room steady, nodding out, come back and do it again. That's when I'm lucky I didn't OD, really, because I was doing a lot of dope.
So what made you decide I can't keep doing this?
I was losing everything. I lost everything. I mean, I had rental properties. I had my dream car, a motorcycle, boats. I mean, I went from having damn near everything I wanted and, you know, and succeeding good in life, me and my wife, to losing it all.
But Mollet says help is hard to find. And in his opinion, coming off heroin is impossible to do on your own.
A lot of people that do dope, they're not getting high, they're just getting well, because it's a messed up drug. I mean, it's a real demon, you know what I mean? In my opinion, it's a demon. That's why now I'm doing Suboxone, but I buy them on the streets because you can't get them from the clinics when you need them, you know what I mean? If you're trying to really sober up and stuff and go to the clinic, you might as well just go to the streets and buy yours.
In the city of Huntington, the mayor created an office dedicated to drug control policy. Former interim police chief Jim Johnson heads the project. Since 2004, Huntington has seen its city's drug offenses spread from a 2-block area to 10 years later in 2014, stretching across every section in town. The Drug Control Policy Office created that year.
Everybody wants that simple solution, that simple answer. I don't have it. The only thing I know for right now, the answer is don't give up.
Syringe exchanges, drug diversion programs, handing out naloxone to the public. These are all small steps that together work to take down a big problem. And it's been 2 years since the state passed a Good Samaritan law, which gives immunity to those seeking medical attention for themselves or another who has overdosed.
The Good Samaritan law says we're going to value life. We're going to put life ahead of everything else.
And while overdoses in Cabell County have gone up since then, the number of those who die is going down. In Huntington, West Virginia, Simone del Rosario, RT.
And Simone joins me now in studio to talk more about her reporting. Simone, whether we're talking about Huntington or the nation as a whole, we've seen this uptick just really in the past 5 years. Why are we seeing it now?
Well, we hear about how people become hooked on heroin, which is they start out taking pills, just like James Mollet in my interview. And then when they can't get pills anymore, they start to turn to stuff on the street, and that turns to heroin. It's a lot cheaper. But when we look at actually some legislation in the past 5 years, this was something that was pointed out to me on the ground in West Virginia that could have contributed to this rise. Back around in 2011, Florida started pushing legislation against pill mills. So they started an anti-pill mill bill. And what pill mills were basically these offices that would prescribe over what was supposed to be medically prescribed. So it was what got people hooked on pills to begin with. And then when states started cracking down on the pill mills back in 2011, all of a sudden we see this rise in heroin use across our country. So you have to think that maybe that's correlated.
And we hear Mr. Johnson saying, your report, that everybody's looking for the magic solution. What have some counties and states done to combat this problem?
Well, we see a lot of states pick up this Good Samaritan law so that a person can call for help and we can avoid a death. Even though someone may still overdose, at least we can avoid that. In Seattle recently, they announced that they have stations where you can actually go and safely inject. That's a very controversial program to have, where you're actually sanctioning a place for people to go and inject in heroin. But what it does is it allows medical professionals to be there at the same time. Same thing with these syringe swaps. In Huntington, they say that these syringe exchanges, really what it does is get these addicts into the door to begin with. First off, they're having to tackle HIV on the rise because of the heroin epidemic. But if they can get people in, give them clean needles, they can also give them an opportunity to accept help. There's people there from the faith community, there's people there that are medical professionals saying, please, let me help you. And maybe eventually, after seeing them enough, someone will say, okay, yes, I need help.
All right, Simone, well, thank you for your reporting there in West Virginia. I look forward to seeing what more we see in your reports to come. Simone Del Rosario, RT correspondent, thank you so much.